So good to meet you all. My name is Pellicciotto, and I'm calling in from Washington, D.C. I'm happy to be part of this, even if just virtually this year. I hope you guys have been enjoying a really exciting and what seemed to be an amazing lineup of activities. I'm not sure exactly how my topic is going to fit, but I'm going to make an attempt at it. Cultivating Sustainability, Lessons from South of the Border. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience in the Peace Corps, actually. I left the Marble Halls of Washington in 2010 and went down to Mexico. I was recruited by Semarnat, which is the Mexican EPA, to work on projects of community sustainability in rural and indigenous parts of central Mexico. So I'm just going to take you through a few slides. I know I only have 10 minutes, so please, give me a little bit of a warning as we're proceeding. So I'm paging down here, and can you see what is sustainability, la sustentabilidad? Are we on the same page? Yes. Okay. So these are probably pretty familiar definitions for you folks. But these were kind of driving forces for me when I started my work. My background is that I have an undergrad degree in business and technology and a master's in organization and human development. So my goal was to get down there and leverage some of this experience for folks on the ground. And these were a couple of guiding, obviously, definitions for me: the capacity to endure in the face of challenges and threats, and really to think about development that attends to today's needs without compromising those of future generations. So I imagine you guys have been talking a lot about that over the last couple of days, and that was really guiding my work as well. So the kind of work I was doing, I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with Agenda 21, but it was an effort by the UN to push development down to the local level from the institutional kind of impositions of the Western world on developing countries and developing communities. So that was the first project I was kind of thrown into. And frankly, I spent about 6 months or even longer on it, and it really didn't work. It was so political, and the motivations, the will of both the government and the people was so absent that I was kind of running around carrying the mantle, and I realized it just wasn't going to work. So that's, I think, it was one of those ahas about development and sustainability that hit me early on. I had to find projects, and I had to find a target audience that was really genuinely passionate about creating that sustainable self-sufficiency. And I started working a little more closely with a couple of environmental engineers. This is the region of the country that I was in central Mexico, very rural, very many pockets of indigenous, and we were serving about 200 of these ejido communities, which are land grant communities of subsistence farmers. And we kind of struck upon an opportunity that I called Viva Viveros. We got some funding from the USAID, and really what this was the intersection of those three important elements of the land, people, planet, and profits. So our goal here was to develop these micro-enterprises of native plants for projects to sell for projects of reforestation on the money side. On the land side, we were propagating these native plants that were in danger of extinction. And then on the social front, we were really working to unify the community, train them and educate them so that they could continue on their own. So it was a year-long effort with the communities, 2 communities, of really, again, trying to focus them on cultivating native plants and then really targeting a market of the of the Mexican government to buy these plants for a very extensive number of reforestation projects that they were undertaking. I'm going to keep going and then entertain questions. I've only just have a few more slides. There's a lot to say about this, obviously. You know, one of the keys was really collaborating and working with the people to discover, you know, their skills and leverage them to do something that had some value in the market and some value for the environment. And it was a lot of training, a lot of team building, a lot of organization development, and then a lot of business development, working with the governments to get permits and so they could sell these plants on the market. So again, I'm rushing through this. I'm excited to get some questions, but you know, the fact is that in the end, there were lots of trials and tribulations. But you know, we started off as a pretty kind of you know, scrawny-looking team, and the group ended up really developing and coming into their own. And we sold the plants. In the end, we sold 20,000 plants to the government for a reforestation project in a national park, and we got the group to be incorporated so that they could raise other money, other grants, and they could sell their product. And then we distributed the monies through a profit sharing scheme that we had developed, so that each socio, each woman got a fair share and was incentivized to work on the next crop. And I would say that like the biggest lesson learned for me, and here are a few pictures, was that the sustainability that we were really after, you know, when I first started out, I was really kind of focusing on government and, you know, this Agenda 21 UN initiative, and it was a complete failure, in my opinion, because it wasn't really about the system. It was really about starting with myself and figuring out how I can be sustainable so that I could better serve a small group of people who then could better serve the system. So, so that's really my sort of big aha in terms of like social sustainability. It really is about me. It's about the individual. And it's about a small group of people making big changes for themselves and their community. So that's about it. I think. Does anybody have any questions?